Hi, I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. Millions of people rely on our protein bars and hydration mixes to win their day. Turns out Thomas Keller, Michelin star chef of the French Laundry, is one of them. We've teamed up with Chef Keller to craft a bar and hydration mix that marry world-class flavor with exceptional nutrition. Our special edition salted caramel chip bar delivers all the decadence of a fine dining dessert plus protein minus sugar and carbs. And our zero sugar yuzu mango hydration mix packs an authentic citrusy punch and a mental boost from lion's mane and magnesium. The best part? 10% of sales go directly to Chef Keller's nonprofit that supports aspiring young chefs. Great taste, great nutrition, great mission. Total no-brainer.
Go to IQBar.com today and enter promo code KELLER20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. That's IQBAR.com, promo code KELLER20.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
A warm and friendly hello, welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSIN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, Ben Wilson. He does such great work over here at VSIN. He does a lot of our live betting shows, does a lot of our overnight shows. He's also tremendous with his play-by-play work, whether that be in college basketball, college baseball, indoor football, tennis, you name it, he does it. And myself, just like Ben, we are natives of the great state of Wisconsin, so we're going to be talking about this incredible hot run that the Milwaukee Brewers are on. Is this sustainable? Can they actually do it in the postseason? We'll talk about that, and we'll take a look at just the open landscape in general that we've got in baseball this season with regards to the postseason races in the final segment. Going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUdent_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever. 100% of gambling transactions do get approved with EdgeBoost, and when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That's going to get you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's take a look back at everything that we saw in baseball on Tuesday. Try to find some trends and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Mariners have been largely an over team this year, but this was as much of an under as it gets, but they get the job done. They've only lost one game since the trade deadline. 1-0, the Mariners get the win. They are now 9-1 in their last 10 games as Josh Naylor won their acquisitions. He had the lone run of the game, an RBI single in the first as George Kirby was tremendous. 7 scoreless innings. Edward Bizardo gave Spire combined for a scoreless inning, and then Andres Munoz a scoreless inning. For Baltimore, Dean Kramer was great. 1 run allowed in 8 innings. You had from there a scoreless inning from Rico Garcia. The lineup did absolutely nothing though, so that's a little bit of a tough luck loss there for the Miami Marlins. They have been incredibly scrappy recently, but the Guardians are now creeping their way into the playoff picture. How about them getting the job done by a count of 4-3? As for Miami, Jansen Junk, he pitched a little bit like junk early on. 3 runs allowed in 5 innings, including a pair of bombs allowed in the first inning. Jose Ramirez, 24th home run season. Kyle Manzardo is 21st, and then the difference maker, Ramirez would go deep once again off of Calvin Fauché, 25th home run in the campaign. Fauché gives up a run in an inning. Anthony Bender, Ronnie Enriquez, they both turn a scoreless inning in. For Cleveland, you had 3 runs, 2 of which earned, given up by Logan Allen in 5 innings, but from there, the bullpen holds it down. Eric Zabrowski, Cade Smith combined for 2 scoreless innings. Nick Enright and Hunter Gaddis, they're both able to turn a scoreless inning of their own. The Cincinnati Reds were on to a 6-1 win over the Philadelphia Phillies. Ranger Suarez appears to be regressing a little bit as he gives up 6 runs in 5 1/3 innings, including a home run. Bullpen from there was solid. Max Laser, 2 scoreless innings. Joe Ross, pair of outs out of the bullpen as Miguel Andujar took Suarez deep for his 8th home run season. But Brady Singer had the Phillies singing the blues. 6 scoreless innings. From there, Graham Ashcraft, Brent Suter both give you a scoreless inning. Sam Moll gives up a home run to Bryce Harper, 18th home run season. Too little, too late, and another under for the Cincinnati Reds. They have been by far your top under team in all of baseball this season. How about 44 overs, 71 unders, and 6 pushes thus far this season? And for the Blue Jays, they have been a very good over team thus far this season. As a matter of fact, best over team in all baseball. 66 overs, 49 unders, and 5 pushes, but they hold down the Cubs on this day. 5-1 the final is. For Javier Assad, his first start in quite some time, gives up 4 runs over the course of 4 innings, including a home run surrender to Ernie Clement, 9th home run season. Then off of Ben Brown, Dalton Varsho would get his 12th home run season, though Brown in long relief, not bad. They piggybacked off of one another. Brown gives up a 1 run in his 4 innings of work, but for Jose Barrios, he was the best pitcher in this game. 5 1/3 innings scoreless. Tommy Nance from there gives up a run in a third of an inning, but Mason Fluharty, Brandon Little both give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Louis Varland and Jeff Hoffman, they were both able to turn a scoreless inning. The New York Yankees look to be getting back on track. 9-1, they're able to take down the Minnesota Twins, as for the Twins, this was not what Trevor Adams was hoping for. 2 1/3 innings, he gave up 4 runs, all of which were earned, including a pair of bombs. Thomas Hatch would give up a bomb, 4 runs allowed in 4 1/3 innings. Cole Sands gives up a run in an inning, and Cody Funderburk and out of the bullpen scoreless. As for the Yankees going deep, Giancarlo Stanton is 12th home run of the season. Aaron Judge is 38th, judge, jury, and executioner. And Anthony Volpe is 18th home run of the season, while Carlos Rodon, a good start. 1 run allowed in 7 innings. Tim Hill, Yuri De Los Santos were both able to turn a scoreless inning. For the Astros, this one turned very ugly. 14-1, they fell to the Boston Red Sox as Dustin May made it Mayday. 6 scoreless innings. You had 1 run given up in 2 innings from Giovanni Morin, and you also had a scoreless inning from Justin Wilson. For the Boston Red Sox, Alex Bregman goes deep, 16th home run of the season, 2 home runs in 2 games in his return to Houston, by the way. Carlos Narvaez, 10th home run of the season. Roman Anthony, his 4th home run of the season. As for Spencer Arrighetti, honestly not the world's worst performance. He gives up 1 in 5 innings. Problem was he had 5 walks, so he gave up 2 runs. From there, Stephen Okert gives up a run in 2/3 of an inning, and then things go off the rails. Colton Gordon, he came on in long relief, 5 runs, 4 of which were earned, give it up in 2 innings. Sean Dubin gives up 4 runs in a third of an inning, and Chas McCormick, position player, gives up 2 runs in his inning of work as well. So that was a little bit less than savory, just like the Pirates were less than savory against the Brewers. For the Green Bay Packers, they take down the Pittsburgh Steelers 14-0, and that's a legitimate score that you could find in a Packers versus Steelers game. But for Paul Skeens, bit of regression here. He's had a tough time against the Brewers all season long. 4 runs allowed in 4 innings. He was taken deep twice as Bryce Terang gets his 12th home run of the season, then Sal Frelick his 9th, and then Jared Trollo, the position player, gives one up to Caleb Durbin, 6th home run of the season. Ryan Barucki gives one up to Andrew Vaughn, 13th home run of the season. You don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez, got messed with. Christian Yelich, 23rd home run of the season. For Ramirez, he gives up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned in his inning of work. Ryan Barucki gives up 3 runs in his inning of work. Dennis Santana scoreless inning, and then Jared Trollo, position player, 200 runs given up in his inning of work. And for the Brewers, Freddie Peralta was on point. 6 scoreless innings. Grant Anderson, Aaron Ashby, both on his scoreless inning, and then Anthony Siegler, hopefully I got that correct, the backup second baseman, comes in for a scoreless inning. So yay, verily there. And Texas, right now, a rough series against the Arizona Diamondbacks. They do not get the job done. The Diamondbacks get a 3-2 win as Anthony DeSclafani only last 3 innings, giving up 2 runs. He was piggybacked by Jake Woodford, with 3 1/3 innings scoreless. Jalen Beeks 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, and Juan Murillo was able to give you a scoreless inning for the Diamondbacks. Pair of bombs in this one. Blaze Alexander, 4th home run of the season off of Jack Leiter, and you had Ketel Marte of the Marte Parte go deep off of Danny Kaloum in the 9th inning. That was the difference. His 22nd home run season. Kaloum gives up that home run in his inning of work. You had Cole Winn along with Sean Armstrong, both on his scoreless inning. Robert Garcia gives up a run in inning, and for Leiter, not a bad start here. He gave up 1 run in 5 innings, but for the Rangers, they go 0 of 9 with men in scoring position. It turned out to be the difference in this one as Rangers, so one of your best under teams in all baseball. 50 overs, 69 unders, and 2 pushes. And for the Colorado Rockies, they completely blanked the St. Louis Cardinals 3-0 the final. Just an embarrassing effort here from St. Louis. Kyle Freeland, 7 1/3 innings scoreless with only 2 strikeouts. Victor Vodnik, he had 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. And for Hunter Goodman, he goes deep off of Matthew Liberatore, his 23rd home run season. Liberatore is experiencing some regression. 3 runs allowed in 4 innings. That's advancing from there. Good and long relief. 3 scoreless innings. And then you had Ori Alcala, Ryan Fernandez led his scoreless inning. But for the Cardinals, 0 of 9 with men in scoring position. That's not going to cut it. The Royals have been one of your better under teams at all baseball, but things got overwhelming on Tuesday. 8-5. They're able to take down the Washington Nationals. As for the Nats, Mitchell Parker gives up 5 runs in 5 1/3 innings, including a home run to one Mr. Vinny Pasquantino, 21st home run of the season. And Jonathan India off of Connor Pilkington, his 7th home run of the season. Pilkington gets a pair of outs, gives up a pair of runs, including that home run. Orlando Robalta a run given up in an inning. PJ Poole in a scoreless inning. And for the Royals, Michael Wacha, solid start here. No dying Pac-Man voice for him. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. Sammy Long gives up 2 runs in an inning, though. Taylor Clark gives up a run in an inning. John Schreiber out of the bullpen scoreless, and Lucas Hursadge was able to turn a scoreless inning of his own. For the Chicago White Sox, they absolutely take it to the Detroit Tigers. This by a count of 9-6 as Captain Jack Flaherty was captain of the giving up 5 runs in 4 1/3 innings SS. As a little bit later on, you'd have Edgar Quiero get a home run as well. His 4th home run of the season. That comes off of newly acquired Cody Hewer. For Hewer, he gives up that home run in 1 2/3 innings of work. From there, Brian Herter, a pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. Tommy Kahnle continues to be miserable. 2 runs allowed in 1 1/3 innings. And for Detroit, you did have a pair of bombs. Cole Keith, 10th home run of the season. Dylan Dingler, his 11th, both coming off the bullpen, as you had a really good start here from Yandres Gomez. He comes in and he gives the team 5 innings of 1-run baseball. From there, Tyler Gilbert gives up a home run in his inning of work, 2 runs in total, give it up. And then Mike Vasil, 3 runs, 2 of which were given up in 2 2/3 innings, as you had Jordan Leisure get the final out of the game to be able to get that one home. And for Detroit, below 500 ever since the All-Star break. That's been a little bit less than savory for them. I'm doing this as a few of these games are going on. This needs to be up by midnight Pacific, 3 o'clock a.m. Eastern, but it's right now looking like the A's should be able to get the job done against the Rays. Right now it's a 5-0 score, and if the Rays don't give up a bunch of runs here in the 8th inning, that'll be another under for them, as they entered into the night 49 overs, 66 unders, and 5 pushes. And for the Boz, Shane Boz, he went 7 innings, gave up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned. I'm not sure why they let him go that far, but for the A's, Jacob Lopez, 9 punch-outs and 7 scoreless innings. Justin Sterner from there, he was able to give you a scoreless inning, so looks like the A's are going to be on their way to victory. Right now, you've got the San Diego Padres in the lead on the San Francisco Giants. This by a count of 4-1, as they got a pretty solid start here from Nestor Cortez. Not a ton of length, gives up 1 run in 4 2/3 innings, did allow 6 hits along the way. As for the San Francisco Giants, that offense is not looking great right now. They have left 9 men on base through their first 6 innings at bat, and for Robbie Ray, it was more like Robbie Boo. He gives up 4 runs over the course of 6 innings, including a home run to Jose Iglesias. First home run of the season. Matt Gage and Jose Buto from there have given you a scoreless inning, and for the Padres, who ranked number 1 in terms of bullpen ERA, they've gotten a pair of outs out of the bullpen from David Morgan and Jason Adam. And right now, the Dodgers and the Angels tied up at 5-5, where pitching has not been the forte of either team in this one. As for the LA Dodgers, Emmett Sheehan gives up 5 runs. He completed 5 innings, but allowed a home run along the way. Going deep for Los Angeles, Taylor Ward, his 28th home run season. You had Victor Medeiros give up 3 runs over the course of 4 innings, including a bomb of his own, as Dalton Rushing was able to get his 2nd home run in the campaign. From there, Andrew Chafin gives up a pair of runs in 2/3 of an inning. Ryan Zefrian and out of the bullpen squirrels. Brock and Roll Burke, Luis Garcia both led to scoreless inning, and Reed Detmers trying to hold down the fort. And it could be even worse for the Angels right now, because they had Shohei Ohtani hit into a triple play in this game. You just don't find that very often. Shohei Ohtani hitting into a triple play. One of the biggest oddities that you're ever going to find in Major League Baseball. And how about if we take a look at some of the oddities that we're finding trend-wise in Major League Baseball right now, is it's been an under season thus far. 51.8% of games going under the total, 888 unders to 827 overs, with a few games late on Tuesday pending. Meanwhile, favorites on the money line hitting at about 57.2%, 1013 and 759 on the money line. Meanwhile, if you're taking a look at what we've gotten just in the last 7 days in Major League Baseball, it has been a little bit more of an overwhelming run of things, as it's been 41 overs to 41 unders with a few games pending, and that Dodgers game already went over the total, and favorites have dominated 54 and 29 on the money line. Again, few games pending for Tuesday. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're all getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do talk with one of our good friends, Ben Wilson, who does such amazing work here at VSIN, about the Milwaukee Brewers, the wide open playoff races that we've got, and so much more right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSIN Family Podcast.
Hi, I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. Millions of people rely on our protein bars and hydration mixes to win their day. Turns out Thomas Keller, Michelin star chef of the French Laundry, is one of them. We've teamed up with Chef Keller to craft a bar and hydration mix that marry world-class flavor with exceptional nutrition. Our special edition salted caramel chip bar delivers all the decadence of a fine dining dessert plus protein minus sugar and carbs. And our zero sugar yuzu mango hydration mix packs an authentic citrusy punch and a mental boost from lion's mane and magnesium. The best part? 10% of sales go directly to Chef Keller's nonprofit that supports aspiring young chefs. Great taste, great nutrition, great mission. Total no-brainer.
Go to iqbar.com today and enter promo code Keller20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. That's iqbar.com, promo code Keller20.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSIN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man as we've got Ben Wilson aboard. He does such an amazing job taking a look at this great game of baseball that we all know and love. Does a little bit of everything here at VSIN with regards to so many of our weekend and overnight shows. Additionally, I know that he is doing an absolutely tremendous job on the front of play-by-play, whether that be indoor football, whether that be college baseball, college basketball, you name it, he does it. He even does some tennis as well. And you're able to follow him on the old Twitter /X at his first name, Ben, then an underscore, his last name, Wilson, another underscore, and the number one all together. And always great to get you aboard, Ben. Thank you.
You got it, Greg. Fun time to be a native of Wisconsin, though. Am I right? What an awesome stretch this has been. I'm sure we are going to talk amply about this NL Central race that pretty quickly has kind of turned into a runaway.
Yeah, it certainly has. What have you made about the Milwaukee Brewers that we have said, oh, this seems pretty unsustainable. I don't know if they're going to be able to do it or not. And every single time we say that, this team just continues to win games and win games.
Like, I got a text over the weekend saying, congratulations, the Milwaukee Brewers are officially the 2011 to 2019 St. Louis Cardinals. I thought that was pretty good. But look, I mean, if you actually watch them, right, and I know a lot of people in the betting space, like, not to criticize people for their process, but I think the vast majority of analytic, sabermetric-based betting people that will be listening to this and that we know, Greg, they are guys, they might not watch 6 hours of baseball a night. They're going to be looking at the box scores, the StatCast data, a lot of the underlying metrics. And if you don't watch the Milwaukee Brewers night in, night out, if that's all you go off of, those stats, of course you're going to say this is fraudulent, because nothing of what they do looks very good as far as a long-term sustainable approach. But when you actually watch them, I mean, there's the stuff, and I'm going to sound like the 1980s man of yesteryear sort of guy, even though that's not usually my shtick, Greg. But when you watch him, it's every single guy has the ability to work a deep count, has an ability to take the extra base, field his position at an above average level. And I think that all adds up. I mean, when you watch the series over the Mets this weekend, it was like death by 1,000 cuts. And it's one of those things that, yes, can you sit here and say, okay, these rallies, like the 7th inning rally Saturday, where it was a infield single, an 0-2 pitch hit 70 miles an hour off the bat down the right field line that, catches a piece, goes into the stands for a ground rule double, and then a homer, a pitch after what should have been an out on a pitch clock violation. Like, of course, in a vacuum, that looks super lucky and unsustainable. But that's just how this team has played all year. And I think we both felt it was only a matter of time in the preseason before this team would at least look to be decent. I mean, we didn't think they'd do this, Greg, but you figured once they shored up the fundamentals, which took about a month to happen, you knew the Brewers would make other teams, it would be a tough out. They'd make other teams have to earn wins against them. And it just so happened that, that I think what has been perfect about this run is it's happening kind of in the dog days of summer. A lot of these teams are fatigued, going through lots of injuries, and they don't have the mental capacity, really, as dumb as that might sound on the surface, to hang in there, for lack of a better term, in a lot of these games and get 27 outs against the Brewers.
Yep, and they have been finding a way to get the job done time and time again, and it has been so much fun to watch as Ben Wilson, who does such tremendous work over here at VSIN, joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And then in terms of the game on Wednesday, one of the big keys to this Brewers team has been Brandon Woodruff. Looks like he's going to be on the bump against the Pirates, and obviously these are games that the Brewers need to win, because if you're not winning against the Pittsburgh Pirates at home, then something has gone wrong here. But I do feel like he's one of the big keys for this team, and it's been so interesting in general to take a look at the way that the Brewers have been able to really fortify themselves, and the way that this Milwaukee Brewers team has been able to really just have these guys that weren't in the rotation towards the beginning part of the year be able to fill in, and the likes of Jacob Mizorowski, Brandon Woodruff's progression have been a big reason, in my opinion, that the Brewers have had the season that they've had.
Oh, no doubt. We started the year, and I thought Nestor Cortez would be a guy crucial to any success. And here he is. Started a couple games. He's not even on the roster. He's with the Padres now. And it was, total disaster when he did pitch. But I would say if you're comparing some of the young guys, and even if you lump in, Freddie Peralta is now a veteran, but I mean, every single start for Freddie, it's like 5 innings, 98 pitches and a whole lot of stress. I just wonder, does he reach kind of a breaking point as we get into October? I think Woodruff is the one guy who, working back from injury, but is as competitive as anybody on the roster. He does not want to be on a pitch count. He's doing it right now just because he gets it, right? Like, it's not October baseball yet. He knows it's the prudent thing to do, but he's completely got the capability to eventually be someone that they're starting, obviously every 5th day, but at the sort of pitch count and with the same veracity that he used to in the 2018, 2019 kind of era when he was a focal part of NLCS type Brewers teams that was an anchor of the pitching staff. So that's definitely, for me, the guy. If we're looking long term, I mean, the Miz has been the story really of the season for Milwaukee, just from an individual perspective. But I think we have to be realistic. Like, I see them taking a really cautious approach with him coming back from the IL. I don't see him getting more than a couple starts here the rest of the way. That might be a little bit pessimistic, but I think they get the situation at hand. I think you're going to see him used in some just sort of oddball spot relief roles in the postseason, just because he's already at about 100 innings anyway. And that's really the wild card. I think people have to understand that should be the expectation for Mizorowski, not like a Brandon Woodruff, which is the guy who's going to be pitching 6-7 strong by the end of the year.
Yep, absolutely. And if you think that that's such a big key for this Brewers team, and also with the Brewers, the way that they've revamped that bullpen has been so big as well. DL Hall, who they thought might be a starter, he's been a really good long reliever. Abner Uribe has been a guy that has been utilized in a wide variety of ways. Nick Mears, who I thought was an afterthought when they picked him up last year, he's been rock solid as well. Aaron Ashby, the list goes on, and I think that really goes under the radar as well, because the Brewers, through the first month of the season, were one of the worst teams in the bullpen. They become one of the best now.
And think about the guys, like, they gotten rid of the pitchers in that pen that were true guys you did not want to have to count on it. I mean, Elvis Peguero starting games for the White Sox now, right? Good riddance. Aaron Savali, it never worked out as much as he was a starter and clearly did not have a place in the rotation. I think it also figures in well. And I mean, everybody right now talking about the Brewers from a long-term perspective is taking a very similar tone, which is, I can't wait for October and I can't wait to fade them in the divisional matchup, assuming they hang on and win the division. But in all honesty, what the Brewers do so well and what they want to do, I mean, it plays into a postseason format, because you mentioned, like, to me, Aaron Ashby and DL Hall have been the two unsung stalwarts within this, where you can have them throw like 4 innings if they're effective pretty easily. And for the Brewers, who ever since the Craig Counsell era, they've embraced this whole out-getting mentality. It's not about specific roles and who's your closer, who's your setup guy, who gets the 7th. It's, no, who do we want in the most high-leverage situations getting outs? It helps when you have some long relievers who can, let's say a Freddie Peralta's only going 4 innings in a postseason game. You still feel pretty good with the arms they can back them up with. And I'd also go as far as to say the Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill combo, those are, to me, Greg, pretty much two top-of-the-line closers right now. Like, Uribe's growth has been out of this world, and the command issues, by and large, are a thing of the past for him. Nobody can touch the fastball. McGill is just as rock solid as they come. So I think those guys are pretty interchangeable, as much as McGill's been the 9th inning guy all year. And that's why I wouldn't go out on a limb and say, all right, no matter what the matchup or the price, I'm just fading Milwaukee come October, as much as I still have my doubts as to how sustainable it actually will be. I don't know if there's another team or another staff that lines up in a way where I would just feel super gung-ho and rock solid about backing them.
Yep, absolutely. And it's been incredible what we've been seeing out there. And what else I think is interesting is just how wide open the National League it feels right now, as Ben Wilson, who does such great work here at VSiN, is joining me on the baseball betting show. And for the Brewers right now, best record in baseball. They have been as steady as they come, but I still think that you probably agree with me. We all know the triangle when it comes to Milwaukee and just in general Wisconsin sports teams. You start out at the bottom with no expectations. You build yourself up. You hit that climax when you think, all right, this is when it's going to be time. And then you get let down again. It's the triangle of life that I know that many people do with the Packers, insert your favorite Wisconsin team here, but how do you take a look at this National League? Because I do think that the Brewers, especially with not having a lot of power hitting, they've got their vulnerabilities. Obviously, the Dodgers with their injuries have their vulnerabilities. The New York Mets have fallen down the toilet bowl. The Philadelphia Phillies have been looking pretty solid, but outside of Kyle Schwarber, not a ton of power, and they've got their bullpen liabilities as well. It just feels like every team in the National League is flawed, including the Cubs, who have been up and down recently themselves.
It does. It feels like one of those years where you could completely talk yourself into whatever the 2 versus 3 wild card matchup is. You basically look at, and you know, the final wild card matchup, you just look at and say, okay, whoever is winning that is going to win the pennant. I mean, because they could very well be like, we could have a Mets Padres wild card. And if that's the case, I mean, the winner of that, I would feel really strongly about them winning it all. I mean, I just watched the Mets really closely over the weekend, Greg. And I mean, everything about what the Mets are going through is the classic hallmark of just a super talented, but also streaky team. And I think if you're the Mets and if you're a backer of them long term, this is the time. And because it's New York and that media market, everybody's freaking out and the sky's falling. And I mean, Francisco Lindor, like I have a lot of shares in him in fantasy, and I feel like he hasn't gotten a hit in 8 weeks basically. But this is the sort of time you want to buy low on a team like the Mets when it's dog days of summer, when there's no offense. But the pitching by and large has been there. They've made a lot of uncharacteristic mistakes in the field that you just kind of assume get shored up. So that's kind of the team in a similar fashion to how in San Diego was in a position where they were struggling. Greg, you and I talked about this pre-trade deadline where we just figured this was about the time last year. The Padres will get it together. Good time to buy low. They and the Giants had the same odds at one point to make the playoffs, both plus money. Mets would probably be the team I would be most likely to buy low on. And it's kind of just more of a revolving door of if any of those top juggernauts have a big losing skid and the futures market adjusts whatsoever, that will be a time I'm looking to buy in and try to get a nice little portfolio because of the randomness that you have to assume the playoffs will be in the NL.
Yeah, you have to assume that it's going to be very much a hodgepodge, and it is very much wide open this year when it comes to all of baseball, because I take a look at the American League side of things as well, and there is nobody running away with that right now. The Detroit Tigers have fallen down the toilet bowl. The Yankees are in danger of making the playoffs. Red Sox have been able to rise up, but who knows what sort of depth they're going to be able to provide when it comes to the postseason as well. The Texas Rangers are a team that I feel bullish about, but the offense has been all over the place as well. The Houston Astros right now lead their division, but they don't necessarily look strong themselves. I just look at the entire American League, and I think that's the exact same conversation that we had with the National League, where it feels like all these teams are flawed.
Sure, and I think that's also where I think the reason why, I mean, you're high on the Rangers. I find myself kind of wanting to go in that direction too, is when it comes down to it, and you have a lot of teams that are inconsistent, and it also leads into the whole 3 true outcomes we see now from a hitting perspective these days, where it just seems like it's walk, strikeout, homer. I want to go to battle with a staff that I know has dudes and a playoff caliber tested veteran guys at the top of rotation. So that's why for the Rangers, I mean, I look at them and yeah, I mean, the hitting has just been abysmal all year, but they've still, in spite of that, been hovering right around 500, and they're right in the mix as it stands. And I don't have a lot of trust in what the Red Sox are doing being super sustainable. Yankees seem like they are always on a knife's edge as far as just kind of falling off a cliff with even as much talent as they had, the injury starting to pile up. So that's a team I look at and like, say you get them in a wild card, right? And it's the best of 3. I mean, what other team, in the majors, right, would you rather have as far as like just a first 2 game starting rotation than what the Rangers can do? That might be a little bit out on a limb, and you're also just assuming health for guys, especially Jacob deGrom, right, who has certainly not been a true bastion of health over his career. But that's why I think teams like the Rangers, and I was ready to kind of be on board with the Royals too, but the Chris Bubich injury is brutal because of how consistent and solid he had been. But teams like that are the ones that I would look at, especially in an AL where I view it as kind of it's certainly been metrically a lighter hitting league, not as much talented offense across the board. And those are the teams that I'll keep my eye on as we get closer to October, and could be good bets, in a short runway. Like we get to the first week of September and look at how the schedules line up and say, hey, maybe the Rangers are a good bet, even now, even in a couple weeks, to make the playoffs at a plus money number.
Yep, absolutely. I am right there with you. And I do think that this time of year, I don't know if you agree / disagree, but the managers play such a big role as well, because with the Texas Rangers, I feel good going to battle with Bruce Bochy, with the Detroit Tigers. We saw what they were able to do last year as well with a guy in AJ Hinch, who we remember what he was able to do with the Houston Astros. Heck, I take a look at a team like the Reds in the National League. Terry Francona, I think, can be able to get them to the postseason. I think that becomes all the more important this time of year.
Agree. I mean, that's if we go back to the Brewers, finish the conversation where it started. Like Pat Murphy should win, as long as he's the manager, should just keep winning, manager of the year unanimously. I mean, every year, because of what he has done to get that team playing where it's at, given the payroll, given the sort of talent level. And there's, again, it kind of goes into the old school handicapping mentality of, well, like managers still do matter. And the little things that don't count in the box score, you actually have to take into account, which I think, sometimes, and I'm guilty of definitely doing this, we get away from in betting baseball day to day because it is such a grind and we have such a narrow focus. But yeah, the Reds thing is interesting because I'm still, give so much credit to a team that has Francona as a manager, yet they have resembled so much a lot of the teams of Reds past these last 4 or 5 years. And so far, we haven't seen the true impact on a large scale that you would have thought from Terry Francona. I mean, this Reds team is super Jekyll and Hyde. They've got a huge series coming up this weekend when they host Milwaukee. But maybe it's due to the injury and they've just been super inconsistent as a lineup. But you just kind of keep waiting. And every time they show you a little flash, it's like they take a big step forward and then a couple smaller steps back. And it just seems like they've been treading water most of the year. So that's a team I'm not, as much as they're right in the mix and they've pulled close to the Mets here for the final wild card, I'm still not ready to truly believe they've got what it takes to get over a hump and be a true contender.
Yep, I'm right there with you. And I do think that we've got ourselves such a great landscape in baseball right now. And Ben, you're doing a great job of covering it all. And I know you're hard at work on so many different fronts, whether that be indoor football, college sports. I know that you're doing a lot of NFL these days as well. So let the good people at home know it's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Hey, you got it. It's Ben_Wilson_1, doing some VSIN hosting as well coming up this weekend. So as much as I do a lot of other sports, Greg, it is nice to be able to do some live MLB betting. So we'll be heavy on that before football starts.
Oh, absolutely. It is always a lot of fun. And every single time Ben joins me, he lends such great insight. So a big thanks to Ben for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast. They give you picks and analysis every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
Hi, I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. Millions of people rely on our protein bars and hydration mixes to win their day. Turns out Thomas Keller, Michelin star chef of the French Laundry, is one of them. We've teamed up with Chef Keller to craft a bar and hydration mix that marry world-class flavor with exceptional nutrition. Our special edition salted caramel chip bar delivers all the decadence of a fine dining dessert plus protein minus sugar and carbs. And our zero sugar yuzu mango hydration mix packs an authentic citrusy punch and a mental boost from lion's mane and magnesium. The best part? 10% of sales go directly to Chef Keller's nonprofit that supports aspiring young chefs. Great taste, great nutrition, great mission. Total no-brainer.
Go to IQBar.com today and enter promo code Keller20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. That's IQBAR.com, promo code Keller20.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always a pleasure to get Ben Wilson aboard. He does such great work here at VSiN, doing a lot of our overnight shows, doing a lot of our live betting shows. His play-by-play work is supreme, and every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So big thanks to Ben for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Wednesday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at gunit_81, and we are going to go in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So how about if we do get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card? The Pittsburgh Pirates walk the plank on the road to the Milwaukee Brewers as you've got Brandon Woodruff on the bump for the Crew, and Mitch Keller goes for the Pirates. Pirates are an underdog of between plus 158 to a plus 160 168, minus 185 to minus 195, that number on the Brewers. So on scheme is 7.5, over and under both at minus 110. And if you're looking to lay a run half with the Brewers, I have to utilize the old FanDuel opener on this one. But right now you're going to be getting plus money on the Brewers at a plus 106, and I'm willing to take that, as I was willing to go up to a minus 115 with regards to this run line. For Mitch Keller, he just has not been the same pitcher on the road rather than at home throughout his career. Now, he's had a little bit of a reversal with regards to his splits this season, but if you look since he came into the league since the 2019 campaign, his ERA goes up by about 0.8 points higher when he's on the road rather than when he's at home. 3.99 home ERA, 5.01 ERA on the road. On the road, he has been giving up throughout his career about 1.2, 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. That goes down to about 0.7 home runs per 9 innings at home. And while Mitch Keller's 3.86 ERA this season is not too bad, he's not getting a lot of swings and misses. 7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has been able to reduce the walks with 2.5 walks per 9 innings. But for Brandon Woodruff, he's been pretty supreme for the Brewers this season. A 2.29 ERA, backed up by 3.73 fielding independent. The 1.8 home runs per 9 innings, a little bit concerning, but he is getting 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has really been rocking and rolling since coming off the injury list. He has given up 2 earned runs or fewer in every one of his starts, and he faces off against a Pittsburgh Pirates team that I mentioned that he's had a little bit of a tough time giving up the homers. Well, for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they have 3 guys on the roster with more than 5 home runs this season: Andrew McCutchen, O'Neill Cruz, and Brian Reynolds. And you got a lot of guys that just are not moving the line for the team. Cruz, who I mentioned before, Jared Trollo, Henry Davis, Alexander Canario, Jack Swiniski, all guys sitting at 225 or lower for this group. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, it's not as if you've got a lot of power on this team. Christian Yelich, the lone guy in the lineup right now that is healthy, that is giving you over 22 home runs, because Jackson Trio is dealing with an injury, but there's a lot of guys that are getting on base for this team. Sal Frelick, Isaac Collins are both hitting above a 290, and then you've got the likes of William Contreras, Yelich, who I mentioned before, Bryce Terang, Caleb Durbin, a whole bunch of guys give you above a 335 on base. Andrew Vaughn, since he came over to the Milwaukee Brewers, has been absolutely tremendous. Like, this guy was terrible with the Chicago White Sox earlier in the season. In his first 26 games with the Brewers, 419 on base, 7 home runs in 91 at-bats, so you absolutely love to see that. And for the Brewers, they've really been able to figure out the bullpen. A top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA since June 1st, as likes of Nick Mears, Shelby Miller, they picked up at the deadline, Abner Uribe, Trevor McGill. These are all guys that are giving you a sub-3 ERA. Grant Anderson has been pretty solid in the bullpen as well. For the Pittsburgh Pirates, this is not a bad bullpen themselves. They do trade away David Benhart at the deadline, but likes of Dennis Santana, Isaac Madsen have been able to give you a sub-350 ERA. They're getting Chase Shogurt off the injury list, more around a 365 there, so I do think that the Brewers are going to do a nice job in this circumstance. I did tell my total 7.8. I do think that the Brewers get to Keller, so I like the Brewers on the run line to go along with that total. Over 953, 954 on the card. The Colorado Rockies are on the road facing off against the St. Louis Cardinals, as Michael McGreevy is on the bump for the Cards. Austin Gomber, so not get Gombered up for Colorado, and Colorado is a pretty sizable underdog between plus 168 to a plus 175, minus 195 to a minus 208 is that number on the Cardinals, and total on this game is 9. The under is between minus 110 to a minus 115, over is between minus 105 to a minus 110. If you're looking to lay that Cardinals run line, right now seeing that at a minus 106, I'd be willing to go up to a minus 110 for McGreevy. He's not going to blow you away with a whole bunch of strikeouts or anything like that, but he's been a steady Eddie guy that doesn't really self-inflict wounds. A 4.40 ERA, he's only giving up 0.6 home runs at 1.4 walks per 9 innings. Again, 5.2 strikeouts per 9 innings. That leaves you a little bit concerned that he gives up the deep ball a little bit more moving forward, but he also gets a face-off against the Colorado Rockies team that is dead stinking last in the big leagues in terms of their overall run production when they're away from home, along with their on-base percentage, as you've had Hunter Goodman be able to give you 13 home runs on the road. He's been able to do a very nice job with that regard, but that said, this is a Colorado Rockies team that they just have a lot of guys that they don't hit away from home. Those home and road splits with Colorado, they do really get to you, as you've got a lot of guys like Mickey Moniak, Jordan Beck, Orlando Arcia is currently on the injured list, by the way, Ezekiel Tovar, whole bunch of guys are hitting at 222 or lower that are rock solid for the team when they're at home. You'll be able to have Warming Venable step up, and in a very small sample size, he's actually been really good for the team. He's sitting above at 300. He's been able to give the team 3 home runs in his first 6 years or so at bat, so you do like to see that. But for the Colorado Rockies, also a bottom 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA. They trade away Jake Bird at the deadline. You do have Victor Vodek, who's been pretty solid in this bullpen, as he's been able to give this team a sub 375 ERA, but then you just have a cavalcade of different guys that are just not getting the job done. You've got got likes of a Seth Alverson, Juan Mejia, throw in there as well. Zach Ognos, who I believe hit the injured list, Anel Shavili, Ryan Rolson, all these guys posting up north of a 4.15 ERA. Nick Anderson is a guy that they added. He's not too great. And for the St. Louis Cardinals, even though they do trade away Phil Matone along with Ryan Elsley at the deadline, you still have a lot of guys that are able to go out there, get the job done. Jojo Romero, Riley O'Brien, Matt Savanson, all give you a sub 350 ERA. Kyle Leahy's been pretty solid with about a 250 ERA as well. And for the Cardinals, it's not necessarily a power hitting team. They're in the bottom 8 in the big leagues with regards to home runs on a per at-bat basis, but getting Ivan Herrera back off the injured list is big. 10 bombs and less than 250 at-bats. He's been able to give you 375 on base. And then you do have likes of a Brendan Donovan hitting at 280. You've been able to get good production out of Alec Burleson. He's hitting for 14 home runs with about a 280 batting average. Wilson Contreras leads the way with 16 bombs, about a 345 on base. So you've had some solid work there, but some of the younger guys like Pedro Baez, Victor Scott, throw in there Nolan Gorman, these guys hitting at 230 or lower, need a little bit more out of them. That said, I do think that this is a good circumstance here for the St. Louis Cardinals to be able to get the job done by multiple runs against a guy that actually used to pitch for the Cardinals in Austin Gomber, but Gomber has been getting Gombered up all season long. He's another guy that does not give you a whole lot of deception. Strikeout per 9 rate, currently at a 5.4 with 2.2 home runs and 2.5 walks allowed per 9 innings, 6.52 ERA, 4.94 fielding dependent. He has given up at least 4 runs in each out of his last 4 starts. So this is my total 9.2. I like the over and the Cardinals up to a minus 110 on this run line. 9.55, 9.56 on the card. The Slam Diego Padres are on the road facing off against the San Francisco Giants. We do know that it's going to be Nick Pivetta going for the Padres. For the Giants, it's old TBD, so this game is off the board. This is supposed to be Kai-Wei Tang's spot in the rotation, but they've been utilizing a lot of openers for Tang, which is why this game is off the board. So whether you have Tang as your opener / bulk guy, or if you have him just straight up as a starter, I will be setting the same line for this one with the Padres. I made them a minus 127 favorite. We'll be looking at minus 126 or better with them, plus 128 or higher. Looking at the Giants and made a total of 7.9. At a 7.5 or less, I'm in on the over, an 8 or higher to the under. For Mr. Tang, he has been able to give the team in his 2 appearances 8 1/3 innings. Really is a guy that is a upside guy, 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but has been giving up quite a few walks. You take a look at what he did at the AAA level because it's just a small sample size. He was pitching out there in the PCL, and we know how hard it is to pitch in Sacramento with the way that the A's have played thus far this season. And out there in Sacramento, he's getting 14 strikeouts per 9 innings, posted up a 3.67 ERA, which doesn't sound amazing at the AAA level, but in the PCL, that's actually really stinking good. And then on the other end, you've got a guy, Mr. Nick Pivetta, who's been able to do a nice job overall this season. 2.94 ERA, the fielding dependent more in that neighborhood, about a 3.31. He's getting about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but for Pivetta, he does have some pretty extreme home and road splits and is coming off of giving up a 5 spot in his last start against the Boston Red Sox. That's his old team, so that's a little bit more understandable, but that said, 2.41 home ERA for Pivetta. Pivetta at home is giving up only about 0.8 home runs per 9 innings. On the road, he gives up closer to about 1.2 to 1.3 home runs per 9 innings, posting up a 3.67 ERA, but he is backed up by a bullpen that ranks number 1 in all of baseball in terms of ERA. You've had these guys like Jeremiah Estrada, Jason Adam, David Morgan, Audrey Motohone, all be able to give you a sub-3 ERA. Robert Suarez has been a solid closer, though he's blown a few games here in the summer months, but in all, it's a good bullpen that also now is Mason Miller as well. And for the Giants, even though they are a little bit gutted in the bullpen, they're currently dealing with an injury to Eric Miller. They sell off Camilo Doval along Tyler Rogers at the deadline. They're still a top 5 team with regards to bullpen ERA. They pick up Jose Buto, a really good long guy that's able to give you a sub-350 ERA. Joey Lucchesi, Randy Rodriguez are both give you a sub-3 as well. Spencer Bivens, Ryan Walker are a little bit rough, and then you've got a lineup that they just need to be getting a little bit more out of these guys. Dom Smith has stepped up. He's made with about a 280 for this team, and for Rafael Devers, he's starting to get it going a little bit more, but ever since he joined the Giants in 47 games, 8 home runs at a 231 average, you're just expecting a little bit more out of him. And then you've got Willie Adames, who over the last 45 days has been able to double-figure amount of homers, but it's been a little bit too little too late for this team. Matt Chapman is up to 16 bombs. He's giving you about a 335 or so on base, but the entire catcher spot has been awful for this team. You've got Eloy Ramos give you 14 home runs. He does a solid job of moving the line, but on the other end for the San Diego Padres, do love the way that they were able to fortify things themselves as That trade that they made with the Baltimore Orioles, I thought was very supreme. Being able to bring in Ramon Laureano along with Ryan O'Hearn to be able to hold down the fort. Both of these guys give you 14 plus home runs. Both of these guys above a 340 on base. And Xander Bogaerts, since the beginning of the month of June, hitting above a 300. This Padres team is in the bottom 6 in the big leagues in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis. But you've got from Fernando Tatis Jr. along with Manny Machado doing a nice job leading the way. Machado has been able to give you 20 home runs. Tatis Jr. is up to 17 home runs. And both of these guys entered into Tuesday with above a 355 on base. Luis Rise is hitting about a 290. So for the Padres, I do think that they should be a mid-sized favorite. Willing to lay up to a minus 126 on their money line, plus 128 or higher. Looking at the Giants, and then 7.5 or less, I'm in on the over 8 or higher. The under 957, 958 on the card. The Philadelphia Phillies are going to be on the road against the Cincinnati Reds. And yes, we are on to Cincinnati, who's on a Hunter Green getting the start for them. And Chris Sanchez is on the bump for the Phillies. And the Phillies are between minus 133 to minus 144 favorites, and between plus 118 to a plus 123 is that number on Cincinnati. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 120. The over is even. And with the Phillies, I could only set them at a minus 108. I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the Reds on the money line. Now for Hunter Green, it's been a very interesting year for him, as this is going to be his first start since June 4th. And for Hunter Green, in his minor league rehab starts, he did post up an ERA. That was a 6.23, but he also got 16.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. And if you take a look at what he did leading up to him going on the injured list on June 3rd, 272 ERA, 11 strikeouts per 9 innings in his 11 starts this season. So he really had it rocking and rolling. And then for Christopher Sanchez, 236 ERA, allowing just 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, but he is backed up by a bullpen that has been a little bit less than savory for the Philadelphia Phillies. Now the good news is you pick up Yohan Duran. That is a very good pickup for them, as he has been just absolutely dominant this season. And then Orion Kerkering, Matt Strahm, both of these guys have been able to give you a sub-3.5 ERA thus far this season, but Jordan Romano has been an absolute disaster for this team, posting up well above a 5 ERA. Daniel Robert is not necessarily the answer in this bullpen. They've been trying to mix and match with someone like Seth Johnson. Tanner Banks has been able to give you about a 3.20 ERA, so he's been a little bit better. But for the Philadelphia Phillies, they also average right around about 5.1 runs per game at home. That goes down to about 4.3, 4.4 runs per game when they're away from home, as you've got Kyle Schwarber providing the Schwarbombs, 42 home runs, 376 on base, and Bryce Harper is up to 17 home runs himself, despite the fact that he has missed, I believe, 28 games this far this season, and he's also been able to supply over a 360 on base. Really, nobody else has been able to give you more than 12 home runs other than Nick Castellanos at 15. Now, you do have quite a few guys getting on base. Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto, Armando Sosa, owing at least a 273, but on the other end for the Cincinnati Reds, you do have Ellie De La Cruz, who's a stolen base machine. He's been able to give you about a 350 on base. He's up to 19 home runs. It's not necessarily a, shall we say, firepower lineup with a bunch of mashers, but that said, Austin Hayes, TJ Friedel, they're both up to 10 plus home runs. For Hayes, he's sitting at 255. Friedel's up to a 375 on base. Gavin Lux has been able to hit about a 280 with a 360 on base. You now have Neovaldi Marte coming off the injury list, hitting about a 285 as well. And then for the Reds, right around about a league average bullpen in terms of ERA. Emilio Pagan has a sub-3 ERA. I always get concerned about the deep ball with him, but overall he's been able to do a solid job this year. Brent Suter, Luis May, both right around about a 350 to a 360 ERA, and then Tony Santillan has been able to give you about a 3 ERA as well. So circumstance where with the Cincinnati Reds being able to get them at plus money like I'm seeing, I was willing to take a plus 109 or higher. I'm going to be in on that money line, and I did set my total here at an 8.2, so here at the 8.5, I'm in on the under. 959, 960 on the card. The Atlanta Braves are on the road against the New York Mets. Carlos Cookie Carrasco is on the bump for the Bravos, and David Peterson, great name, goes for the Mets. The Mets are a minus 184 to a minus 194 favorite, between plus 158 to a plus 167. That number on the Bravos, and 8.5 is the total. Over is between minus 115 to a minus 120. Under is between even and minus 105, and with the Mets, I set them at a minus 164 on the money line. Plus 165 or higher was my buy point here on the Atlanta Braves. So I'm going to be willing to take a shot on Carlos Carrasco. I can't necessarily say that I feel great about it, but this is a Mets team that has just been in misery recently. Losers of 11 out of their last 12 games going into yesterday. For David Peterson, I do think that there might be a little bit of regression because he does pitch to quite a bit of contact. For Peterson, we have seen quite a bit of a drop-off in terms of his strikeout rates, 7.6 strikeouts per 9 innings this year, 2.98 ERA with just 0.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings, so he's overall been as steady as they come for the New York Mets and has given up 200 runs or fewer in 4 of his last 5 starts. And for Carlos Carrasco, obviously, he's on the back 9 of his career, to say the least, and he might be on the final hole or two, but I mean, for Carlos Carrasco, thus far this season, 6.18 ERA, 5.28 fielding dependent, only getting about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The concern is the home runs, giving up 1.9 home runs per 9 innings, but he does face off against a New York Mets team that has been quite top-heavy in terms of their offense. For the Metropolitans, you have been able to have a quartet of guys give you at least 19 home runs this season. Brandon Nimmo, Francisco Lindor, Pete Alonso, along Juan Soto. Soto's up to about a 380 on base. You've had Brandon Nimmo hit for about a 250 or so, and then you've got pretty much everyone other than Pete Alonso hitting about, for the batting average, 243 to a 251. And then the bottom of the lineup, you just see more out of these guys. Brett Beatty, Mark Vientos, Tyrone Taylor, the entire catcher spot, only at 230 or lower. I will say for Beatty, is up to 12 home runs, and Jeff McNeil, about a 350 on base. But for the Mets, it's been up and down in terms of bullpen. Even though they do pick up Ryan Helsley, Gregory Soto at the trade deadline, they traded away one of their better long guys in Jose Buto. You do have Chris Savinsky, Reed Garrett, both giving you a sub-3 ERA. Edwin Diaz has obviously been rock solid as well, but you've had some issues there. And then for the Atlanta Braves, no doubt about it, this team has had issues all over the place, as Desbel Hernandez has been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. They sent him back up to the big league level. No idea why he was ever at the minor league level to start with. And then you've had Pierce Johnson, Bill and Lee, both do a solid job. Both of these guys are giving you a sub-3 ERA, but Raisel Iglesias, Aaron Bummer, these guys have just not been able to get the job done. And for the Atlanta Braves, getting the job done has been Matt Olson along with Marcell Ozuna. 19 home runs apiece, both give you above a 360 on base. Michael Harris is up to 12 home runs, but 264 on base is rough. Ozzie Albies hitting a 222 with 9 home runs. Nick Allen, 0 home runs, 224 average. What is he good for? Eli White has had an up and down season. Sean Murphy, while he's giving you 16 home runs, is hitting just a 215 as well. So, I mean, this is very much a flawed Atlanta Braves team, but being able to get this big of a plus number at a plus 165 or higher, going to be willing to take a shot on them on the money line, and did make my total an 8.8. So, here at the 8.5, I'm also in on this over. 961, 962 on the card. The Detroit Tigers are on the road against the Chicago White Sox. Shane Smith is on the bump for the Southsiders. Right now, it's all to be determined on the bump for the Tigers. This game is presently off the board. It's looking like Kadir Montero is either going to be the starter or the bulk guy. And if you do get Mr. Montero going up against the White Sox, I set the Tigers at a minus 154 on the money line. Would be willing to lay up to a minus 153 there. Plus 155 or higher looking at the White Sox. I made a total of 8.8. So 8.5 or less going to be in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under. If we do indeed get Montero, it's going to be his first appearance in about 2.5 weeks. He last appeared in late July, 4.66 ERA, 5.07 fielding dependent. Only gets about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 1.6 home runs allowed per 9 innings. But that said, he gets to go up against a Chicago White Sox team that just has really not been slugging this year. They're in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of runs per game. You do have quite a few guys. They're hovering between 12 and 14 home runs, a quartet in Luis Robert, Miguel Vargas, Lennon Sosa, along with Andrew Benintendi. But among these 4, only Lennon Sosa is hitting above a 229, as he's been able to hit a 277 for Sosa. Pretty rock solid. All these guys between a 288 to a 306 on base. You really don't have anyone other than Edgar Quijano give you about a 340 on base, who have really been able to move line. Mike Tauchman as well, though he's been in a little bit of a limited sample size, give you about a 367 on base. Just a lot of guys like Joshua Palacios, Joshua Rojas, Roberto I mentioned before, throwing their Michael A. Taylor, all these guys hitting at 225 or lower. You just need to be getting a bit more out of them. Now, for the White Sox, the bullpen has actually been quite solid. They're in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. They had to throw out there pretty much a bullpen game yesterday, so it was a little bit less than amazing, but Steven Wilson, Mike Facil, both below a 3 ERA. Grant Taylor is starting to put it together with about a 375. Still have a few guys that are a little bit suspect. Brendan Eiser, Cam Boozer, these guys are above a 420 with regards to ERA. And for Shane Smith, pretty good power pitcher, 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He needs to tone down the walks, as he's been giving up about 4 walks per 9 innings, but has been able to do an okay job, keep the ball in the yard, gives up 1 home run per 9 innings, 4.22 ERA. We have seen quite a bit of regression with him. At the very least, we were in like early July, late June. He's been much better recently with 2 runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 3 appearances, so that's a bit encouraging. And then for the Detroit Tigers, this is a top 8 offense in terms of runs per game. Getting back Kerry Carpenter is absolutely absolutely massive. As you just take a look at the lineup that they trotted out there yesterday, pretty much everyone except for Trey Sweeney was hitting at least a 260, other than Spencer Torkelson as well, who leads the way with 26 home runs, about a 335 on base, and then Riley Green is able to give you 27 home runs. Just a lot of guys in general that do find a way to be able to move the line, get on base. Now for the Tigers, since the beginning of the month of June, this has been a bottom half of the big league scene in terms of bullpen ERA. Tommy Kahnle has been a mess. You do have had a pair of guys in Tyler Holton along with Will Vest be able to step up for this team. Vest has been able to give you about a 3 ERA. Holton has been a little bit up and down with about a 3.80 ERA, but I think things were really getting away from him towards the middle part of the season. And when it comes to Montero, I do think that he's going to be able to give you an okay start here. So, like I said, 8.5 or less in on the over, a 9 or higher to the under for the Tigers. Will lay up to a minus 153 on the money line, plus 155 or higher looking at the Southsiders. 963, 964 on the betting board. It is the Seattle Mariners on the road against the Baltimore Orioles. Trevor Rogers is on the bump for Baltimore. Logan Gilbert goes for Seattle. Seattle's a mid-sized favorite of anywhere between minus 135 to a minus 144, plus 118 to plus 127, that number on Baltimore, and your total on this game is 9. The under is between minus 110 to a minus 120, over is between even and minus 110, and circumstance where I'm going to be willing to back the Orioles if I could get a plus 130 or higher. I set my money line price at a minus 129, so if we were to get down to a minus 128 or less, also would be willing to take a shot on Seattle. And if you're looking to lay run half right now with Seattle, I'm doing this on the initial FanDuel opener, you're only getting a plus 110. Honestly, with these prices, I'd be, for getting a run half, getting a minus 130 on the Orioles. I would honestly be looking there right now, but we'll see what we get in terms of more overnight numbers, and you always get limited offerings when you do this a little bit more towards the evening hours, which is where I'm recording this podcast. But that said, when it comes to Logan Gilbert, he has been a strikeout artist for Seattle this far this season. 335 ERA compared to a 289 fielding independent, as he's been getting 12.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, allowing just 1.2 home runs per 9 innings as well. He has given up 300 runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and he's gotten at least 6 punch-outs in each out of his last 5 starts as well, for those of you K-prop guys and gals out there. And for Trevor Rogers, this guy has been absolutely incredible. In his 10 starts with the Baltimore Orioles, he's right now posting up a 144 ERA. He has allowed 2 home runs in 62 in the third innings. Not getting a ton of swing and miss. He's only getting about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but I absolutely love the way that this guy has been operating, and he's backed up by a bullpen that's very much less than savory when you got the likes of a Grant Wolfram, Yennier Cano, guys like this posting up above a 4 ERA. That's an issue. Keegan Aiken has not been too bad in the bullpen, but Felix Bautista landing on the injury list, that was very much unwanted for the Baltimore Orioles. And for Baltimore, they have been a whole heck of a lot better with their offense when they've been at home rather than away from them. For this Orioles team, they are actually last in the American League in terms of runs per game away from them, with about 3.5 runs per contest. This shoots up to about 5.1 runs per game when they're at home. That is a top 5 mark out there in the American League, as they do trade away Ramon Laureano, Ryan O'Hearn at the trade deadline, but you still do have quite a bit of firepower with this lineup, as you've got Gunnar Henderson, who's done a nice job finding way on base, as he's been able for about a 280 with 14 home runs. Jordan Westberg, 14 home runs in less than 265 at-bats. He's hitting at 265. You're getting Ryan Mountcastle off the injury list. Now, some of these young guys like a Kobe Mayo, Ryan Noda, you need to be getting a little bit more of them. Dylan Carlson has been a disaster this season as well, but Jackson Holiday, he's been able to pound up 14 home runs and get Adley Rutschman off the injury list as well. And for Seattle, obviously, Big Dumper Cal Raleigh is the main attraction right now. 45 home runs. He's been able to give you darn near about a 350 on base, as has J.P. Crawford, who's in that neighborhood about a 355 on base, and Eugenio Suarez hasn't necessarily provided a ton since the Seattle Mariners traded from, but overall this season, 37 home runs. You have to think that that's going to be going up. And then Randy Arozarena, Julio Rodriguez, both hitting between a 250 to 255, 23 home runs apiece. For the Mariners, they've got the far leg up with regards to their bullpen ERAs. For the Seattle Mariners, this is a top 8 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. Gabe Spire, Matt Brash, Andres Munoz, Edward Pizarro, all give you sub 3 ERA. They pick up Caleb Ferguson at the trade deadline, so that is nice for the Seattle Mariners. So it's going to depend upon what we get overnight. If we could get a minus 120 or less, looking at the Mariners. But like I said, if I had to play this right now, seeing right around about a minus 130 in terms of getting a run half on the Orioles, I'd be taking that mainly because I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. So I tell it an 8.4. So here at the 9, I'm in on the under. 9-15, 9-16 on the card. It is the Minnesota Twins on the road against the New York Yankees. Cam Schlittler is on the bump for the Yankees, and Joe Ryan goes for Minnesota. 8.5 is the total. Over is minus 115. The under is minus 105. And when it comes to the Yankees, they're between minus 122 to minus 132 favorites. And between plus 108 to a plus 115 is that number on Minnesota. Semi money line price at a plus 113 on Minnesota. So being able to get that plus 115, I'm going to be willing to back Joe Ryan. I recognize that Ryan throughout his career has given up right around about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings away from home, but he has just been so supreme this year. 279 ERA. He's only giving up 1 bomb per 9 innings overall, 9.9 strikeouts, so 1.7 walks per 9 innings, 319 fielding dependent, having given up 200 runs or fewer in 4 out of his last 5 starts, and he goes up against Guy and Schlittler, who he's a little bit wild right now, which, he's able to give you strikeouts, nearly 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but that 4.38 ERA is backed up by a 4.90 fielding dependent, 2.2 home runs, 4.4 walks allowed per 9 innings. He has given up 300 runs or fewer in each out of his 5 starts, but he's also went 5 1/3 innings or less in each out of these 5 starts as well. And he goes up against a Minnesota Twins team that, to call what it is, they are just completely gutted right now because you trade away so many of these good pieces at the trade deadline. That's an issue. Now, good news is you got Byron Buxton back in the fold. 24 home runs, about a 340 to a 345 on base. Ryan Jeffers has been able to give you a little bit of pop. He's up to hitting about a 270, so that's been nice for this team. Royce Lewis is coming off the injured list, hitting above a 260, so that's encouraging. Luke Keeschel, as a young guy, he's actually had a really nice small run for the team, 13 games, but a pair of homers and hitting above a 350, so you'd love to be able to see that. But Matt Wallner, even though he's up to 15 plus home runs, hitting less at a 225. Trevor Larnach has been a little bit up and down as well. And then for the Twins, this is a bullpen that is just a disaster class right now. You've got so many guys posting up an ERA above a 4, like Cole Sands, Justin Topa, Michael Tonkin, Cody Funderburk. They're bringing now Erasmo Ramirez, so that's not a place where you want to be in. For the New York Yankees, I recognize that his bullpen has been up, down, all around this season, but David Bednar, Camilo Udval, a pair of guys that they bring in have a sub 335 ERA. Devin Williams has been just absolutely awful for this team, but that said, Tim Hill has been able to give you sub 335 ERA. Luke Weaver looks to be getting back to the Luke Weaver that we all know and love ever since coming off the injured list. And then for this Yankees lineup, obviously, Aaron Judge is judge, jury, and executioner. 37 home runs, above a 440 on base, entering into the day on Tuesday. But you still have quite a few guys that will be able to give you at least 19 home runs for this team. Jazz Chisholm, Cody Bellinger, Trent Grisham, and for Grisham, about a 350 on base. Bellinger's hitting about a 270, so you got a lot of guys doing a rock-solid job there. And then when it comes to what you're able to get out of some of these other guys, you could just use a little bit more batting average, as you've got Austin Wells, Anthony Volpe, along with Ben Rice, only for between 15 and 17 home runs, only a 235 or lower. Rice does give you a 326 on base, but Volpe 287 on base, 267 out of Wells. And then John Carlos Sainz is coming off the injured list, 11 home runs and 135 at bats, 360 on base, also runs about as fast as a guy that is pulling a tractor as well. So very interesting circumstance there, but I do think that for the Twins, you're going to be able to get a good start out of Joe Ryan. Semi-total at an 8.2, so here at the 8.5, I'm in on the under and the Twins money line. 967, 968 on the card. It is the Boston Red Sox on the road against the Houston Astros, as Hunter Brown goes for the Astros and Walker Buehler goes for Boston. 8 is the total. The over and the under, anywhere between minus 105 to minus 115. Astros are between minus 170 to minus 175 favorites, seeing a straight minus 165 out there as well. And between plus 143 to a plus 148 is that number on Boston. And if you're looking to lay a run half right now with the Houston Astros, obviously utilizing the old FanDuel opener here, but right now I'm seeing that at a plus 122, and I'd be willing to take a shot there. I was willing to take a plus 105 or higher with this Astros run line. I recognize that for Hunter Brown, it's been a little bit more janky over the last month or a half or so, but he's still been one of the best pitchers in all of baseball thus far this season. For Brown, he's down to a 251 ERA, as I'll give it up 200 runs or fewer in each out of his last 3 starts. Just feels like he's gotten his swagger back. He is giving up only about 6.2 hits per 9 innings. That leads all American League qualifying starters. 10.6 strikeouts and 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. So he has been rocking and rolling there. And for Walker Buehler, this guy's just been disastrous on the road this far this season. For Walker Buehler, 5.40 ERA, and he's been a little bit better recently. Credit where it is due. 300 runs or fewer allowed in each out of his last 5 starts. 1.7 home runs and 4.1 walks allowed per 9 innings. So he's got a 573 fielding dependent. But again, getting to the fact that he just has not been right on the road this far this season. For a good friend of Walker Buehler, 6.52 road ERA, and on the road he has given up about 1.7 to 1.8 home runs per 9 innings. Good news for Walker Buehler, he is backed up by a bullpen that does rank in the top 7 in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERAs. Aroldis Chapman just continues to be an ageless wonder. He has been giving you 13 strikeouts per 9 innings, sub 175 ERA, and then have a whole bunch of mix and match guys from there. Garrett Woodlock, who is someone that's able to give you multiple innings. Brendan Bernardino, Greg Weiser, Justin Wilson, Chris Murphy, all these guys have been able to give you a sub sub-3.15 ERA. And for the Red Sox, this is a top 7 team in terms of runs per game. Trevor Story doesn't necessarily give you a ton of on base, and quite a few of these guys are not giving you the world's greatest on base. You've got that with Trevor Story, Ceddanne Rafaela, Abraham Toro, all these guys hitting at least a 250, but I mean, really none of them giving you above a 305 on base. But for Rafael, 14 home runs, 18 bombs out of Trevor Story. Alex Bregman is up to 15 home runs with hitting a 300. Jarren Duran, 12 home runs, 265 average. And then Weiler Abreu, he's wild out for 21 home runs. Masataka Yoshida has been able to give you some nice production since coming off the injured list. And additionally, he doesn't necessarily hit for a lot of power, but Roman Anthony's been able to give you about a 395 on base. And then for the Houston Astros, this continues to be a top 5 team with regards to bullpen ERA. The Bryants, Brian King, Brian Abreu, Steven Oker, Josh Hader, so many guys that have been able to give you a sub-325 ERA. And now you've got Jose Altuve looking like his vintage self. He's been able to give the team 21 bombs, hitting about a 285. And then additionally, you've got a lot of other guys that are able to find a way to be able to supply some power. As Yanier Diaz, 277 on base seems to be improved upon, but 16 home runs. Christian Walker, 304 on base. He's up to 16 home runs as well. Isaac Paredes being on the injured list hurts his team, but you got Victor Caratini hitting about a 270 with 10 home runs. You've been able to get some good production as well out of even someone like a Mauricio Dubon, who's now hitting about a 265. So for the Houston Astros, I do think that they get to Walker Buehler and they find a way to be able to persevere, get the job done. So I'm going to be willing to take the run line of the Astros as long as they get a plus 105 or higher. And I did some, I total at an 8.4, so here at the 8, I'm going to be in on the over as well. 969, 970 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays are on the road against the Athletics, as it's JT Ginn and Juice who's going to be on the bump for the Athletics, and one Mr. Drew Rasmussen is on the bump for the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays are between minus 119 to minus 126 favorites, and between plus 105 to plus 112 is that number on the Athletics. 9.5 is the total. The over is between minus 110 to a minus 115. The under is between minus 105 to a minus 110, and for the Rays, I set them at a minus 136 on the money line, so I'm going to be willing to lay it for Drew Rasmussen. He has just been a steady as a come pitcher this far this season. Not a guy that's going to give you a whole bunch of strikeouts or anything like that, as for Rasmussen, he's only give you about 7.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 2 walks, 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings. Big reason why he's got this 2.66 ERA. He's allowed to combine 5 runs in his last 5 starts, albeit he has went 5 1/3 innings or fewer in 4 of those starts, but they lengthened him out in his last start, going 6 scoreless innings against the Seattle Mariners on the road, so that's very encouraging. And he goes up against a guy in Ganu. He hasn't been bad for the Athletics. He's got a 4.39 ERA. He's getting 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's also giving up 2 home runs per 9 innings, and that's a concern. He's got a fielding opponent hovering right around about 5. He was starting out the season mostly as a long reliever. Now he's been in the role of a starter in 19 1/3 innings. In his last 4 starts, he's given up 8 runs. So he hasn't been great, he hasn't been terrible, but what is terrible is the bullpen behind him, and that's what you've got to be fearing for the Athletics, as you've got Osvaldo Bido as a little bit of a long guy, not getting the job done. Now, you've had 2 guys, Michael Kelly, Sean Newcomb, be able to provide a sub-3 ERA. That's encouraging. Ben Bowden, about a 4 ERA. That's not necessarily too bad, but then you get into the likes of, as I mentioned before, Bido, Tyler Ferguson. They've trotted out there TJ McFarland from time to time. You've got a whole bunch of guys rocking an ERA above a 5 that it's really not great to say the least. And for the Athletics, they've been able to do a nice job of having some mashers step up for the team, as you've got a quartet of guys with between 22 and 24 home runs. Shea Langoliers, Nick Kurtz, Bren Rooker, along Tyler Soderstrom, and Shea has banged for now 24 bombs and is hitting at 275. This guy's gotten hot. Rooker's hitting at 275. Kurtz up to about a 386 on base, and they've needed that with Jacob Wilson landing on the injured list, and even some of the guys at the bottom of the fold starting to give you just a little bit more, as William McCliver, when he's been at the catcher spot, he's been able to actually give you a few home runs. He hasn't seen a lot of action, but he's a guy with a little bit of upside. You need a bit more of the likes of Denzel Clark, Gio Urshela, a guy sitting like at 232, 235 with not necessarily a lot of power. So it is a top-heavy team, and for the Tampa Bay Rays, the fact that you get Brandon Lau back is just absolutely massive for this bunch, as he's been able to supply for the team now 23 home runs, hitting about a 275. Junior Caminero, along with the Andy Diaz, have also been good sources of power. Caminero doesn't walk a lot, but 260 average with 33 home runs. Andy Diaz, 20 bombs. He's been able to give you about a 340 on base. And then Jonathan Aranda being on the injured list with a 395 on base has hurt, but you've got a guy in Chandler Simpson who's giving you 33 stolen bases, hitting darn near 300. Jake Magnum is hitting at 280. He's got 16 stolen bases. The catcher spot, Taylor Walls, Christopher Morel, these guys hitting at 225 or lower. Need a little bit more out of them, but this continues to be a Rays team in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. ERA. They do have Manuel Rodriguez on the injured list, but you've had the likes of Pete Fairbanks, Garrett Clevenger, throwing there Eric Orze, being able to give you a sub 275 ERA, so these guys have been pretty rock solid as well. Now, they sent Orze down to the minor league level, which I'm not quite sure why they did so. They've been giving you a little bit more in terms of some of these longer guys, as you've got Mason Englert now in the fold. He's got about a 4 ERA, but I do think that for the Tampa Bay Rays, they get a pretty solid start. Drew Rasmussen, and they get to get in and this bullpen, so I did set my total 9.8. I like the over, as the runs have been flowing like wine out there in Sacramento, and I like the Rays up to a minus 135 on that money line. 921, 922 on the betting board. It is the Kansas City Royals playing host to the Washington Nationals. Jake Irvin is on the bump for the Nats, and Seth Lugo goes for Kansas City. Kansas City is a minus 180 to a minus 190 favorite. Plus 152 to a plus 162 is that number on Washington. 9 is the total. Over and under, both at minus 110, and I did set my total in 8.8, so I'm going to be in on the under. For Seth Lugo, he has been a whole lot better when he has been at home rather than when he has been on the road. As Seth Lugo is a guy that you want to take a little bit of caution of because he is a bit more of a pitcher contact guy. Right now for Seth Lugo, 346 ERA compared to a 466 fielding independent. 7.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's getting 1.5 home runs and 3 walks allowed per 9 innings, and he has given up 3+ runs in 3 out of his last 5 starts, but for Lugo, again, has been a whole lot better when he has been in Kansas City thus far this season, as when he's been at home, he's rocking an ERA of a 269. At home, he gives up in that neighborhood about 1.2 to 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. On the road, that shoots up to over 1.8 home runs per 9 innings with a 4.24 ERA, so that's been very much less than tremendous. And for Jake Irvin, he's been having himself a little bit of a rough season as well. Not a guy that's going to give you a whole bunch of deception, as for Mr. Irvin, 6 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 1.7 home runs and 2.8 walks per 9 innings, 4.90 ERA compared to a 5.30 fielding independent. He's given up at least 3 runs in 3 out of his last 4 starts as well, so things have toiled both for him. Now the good news is he faces off against the Kansas City Royals team that is averaging in that neighborhood about 3.2 to 3.3 runs per game at home. That is dead sinking last in all baseball. Now they have been a little bit better recently. You pick up Mike Yastrzemski along with Randall Grichuk at the trade deadline to be able to fortify things. Salvador Perez, Vinny Pasquantino, both between 20 and 21 home runs, hitting between a 245 to a 256, and obviously Bobby Witt Jr. is doing his thing, 30 stolen bases, hitting a 285 with 17 home runs. But then you do have a lot of guys that are just not providing any power. Like you've got Kyle Isbell hitting a 264, but he's only got 4 home runs. Drew Waters hitting for a 243 with 1 home run. Nick Lofton, along with John Rave, are both hitting below a 210. Jack Caglione is on the injured list. That's not a bad thing because he has been awful. And for the Kansas City Royals, this has been a bullpen that has been headlined by Lucas Erceg along with Carlos Aceves, being able to give you a sub-3 ERA, getting back Daniel Lynch and his sub-3 ERA. That's very rock solid as well. So overall for the season, they're right around about 11th in the big leagues in terms of their ERA. The guys like Sammy Long and company have been a little bit less than tremendous, but the top guys have been very good in this bullpen all season long, and they should continue to be, especially getting back Hunter Harvey, who in 12 appearances has yet to give up an earned run. Meanwhile, for the Washington Nationals, this team is dead sinking last in terms of our bullpen ERA. You just have nobody reliable whatsoever anymore in this bullpen, especially with Brad Lord going from a reliever to a starter. BJ Poulin in 3 appearances has given you a 3.38 ERA, so I guess you're getting a little bit of something there, but Orlando Robalta, Jose Ferrer, Shinkusuke Ogasawa, Edward Salazar, like so many guys that are right now rocking an ERA that is above a 4.5. That's not even funny. Though you do have a Nationals team that ranks 10th in the big leagues in terms of runs per game away from home, between 4.6 and 4.7 runs per game, with having a trio of guys, Josh Bell, Nathaniel Lowe, CJ Abrams, up to 15 home runs this season. And for Bell, since the beginning of the month of July, hitting above a 285, Abrams has been able to pound, I believe, 12 out of his 15 home runs away from home. You do have Lowe only hitting for about a 217, but James Wood give you good Wood, 360 on base, 25 home runs, not hitting as many deep balls ever since the home run derby, but you should be able to see a little bit of a rise up there. And then the young guys are not providing a lot of power. Brady House is only hitting about a 240, so you need a little bit more there, but Robert Assel's been able to hit a 250, Dallin Lyles hitting more like a 260, so these guys are going to be a little bit of production as well. This is a circumstance where with the Royals, I set their money line price at a minus 112. If you're looking to lay a run F with them, obviously, once again, utilizing the old FanDuel opener right now, I'm seeing that at plus 114. I'd be willing to take a shot there. I'd be willing to take a plus 112 or higher, so look in there with the run line, and I'm going to be in on the 9 under. 923, 924 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks are on the road against the Walker Texas Rangers. Merrill Kelly faces his old team, and you got Zach Gallen looking to fill it up for Arizona. Arizona is an underdog of anywhere between plus 122 to a plus 132, minus 140 to minus 150. That number on Texas, with 8 being the total. Over is minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between even and minus 105. With the Rangers, I did set them on the money line at a minus 167. If you're looking to lay a run half with them, obviously you have to utilize the old FanDuel opener once again. You find that at a plus 134. It's willing to take a plus 116 or higher, so sign me up there. I recognize that a lot of pitchers don't necessarily do well against their former team, but for the Arizona Diamondbacks, they had to trade away Josh Naylor along to Eugenio Suarez, two of their top hitters at the deadline as well. So they did have a little bit of a fire sale. Now you're relying upon the likes of a Blaze Alexander to be able to step up in this lineup. Geraldo Perdomo has been able to give you about a 380 on base, and for Corbin Carroll, he's been able to pound 3 home runs in the last 6 games. It looks like he's getting back to the Corbin Carroll that we all know and love after coming off the injured list. It was a little bit of a rough go for him. Ketel Marte has really slowed down with regards to power. He's still been able to give this team above a 365 on base, so to go along with 21 home runs. But now you're looking at someone like a Tyler Locklear to give you some production, with Pavin Smith being on the injured list. Alec Thomas has hit for about a 255. He's not been great, but he's not been terrible either. And then for the Arizona Diamondbacks, what has been terrible is this bullpen, as they are currently in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA. Andrew Huffman has actually not been terrible for this team, but then you've got a lot of guys that are posting up an ERA well above a 4, like John Curtis with 2 S's, Kyle Bacchus, Juan Murillo, Jalen Beeks. These guys are just simply not getting the job done. And for the Texas Rangers, this has been a top 5 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. They have to deal with a few guys like Chris Martin being on the injured list, but Danny Klum, Sean Armstrong, Robert Garcia, Phil Matone, Hobie Miller. You've got a whole bunch of guys give you a sub 335 ERA. And for Kyle Higashioka, this guy has went nuclear since the beginning of the month of July, hitting well above a 300, so that's helped the team out. For the Texas Rangers, if you look since the beginning of the month of July, averaging about 4.9 runs per contest after it was a really rough run of things for them to begin the season. Now, you still are going to need to get a little bit more of these guys moving forward, as you've got right now 16 to 17 home runs apiece out of Corey Seager, Adolis Garcia, and Wyatt Langford, but Seager has been able to give you above a 410 on base ever since the beginning of the month of July. Wyatt Langford has been able to figure things out. Adolis Garcia and Marcus Semien both hitting at 226 for the season, but they've been a little bit better here recently. Having Evan Carter get injured, that's not necessarily amazing, as he's been a big catalyst for this offense, but that said, I do think that you're going to be able to get a nice start out of Merrill Kelly, who just has been able to do a solid job of being a complete pitcher this season. He's got good swing and miss stuff, even though it's not like going to be out of this world amazing, as he's been able to get 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.8 walks allowed per 9. His ERA is a 3.38, fielding independent, more around about a 3.69, and I do think that he gives a much better start than Zach Gallen, who has just fallen completely off a cliff thus far this season. For our good friend and Mr. Zach Gallen, this has been very much less than savory, to say the least. He is right now rocking a 5.31 ERA. That fielding independent is more than the neighborhood of a 4.55, 8.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up 1.5 home runs, 3.2 walks allowed per 9 as well. He's been a little bit better recently after he gave up 4+ runs in each of his previous 3 starts, a combined 3 runs allowed in his last 2, but those came against the Rockies at home and against the Athletics, so I don't put overly much stock into that, and do think that the Rangers go out there and dominate at a plus 117 or better. Going to be looking at the Rangers on the run line, and did some I told it at 8.2, so you're at the 8, I'm in on the over. 975, 976 on the card. The Cleveland Guardians play out to the Miami Marlins, as Yuri Perez is on the bump for Miami, and Gavin Williams goes for Cleveland. Cleveland is a minus 119 to a minus 126 favorite, plus 104 to plus 113. That number on Miami, 7.5 is the total. Over is minus 125, the under is plus 105. Starting to see a straight 8 out there. That under is minus 115, the over is minus 105, and for the Marlins, plus 103 or higher, going to be willing to take a shot on the money line. I felt like this should be a relatively pick'em game, so being able to get that plus money, I'm willing to back a guy in Yuri Perez who has been really good for the Miami Marlins thus far this season, as he had a few rough starts coming off of the injured list, as he missed the entire 2024 campaign just due to a major injury in general. But for Yuri Perez, he's gone out there and he's been able to, just for lack of a better term, do his job. 3.25 ERA. He's only getting 8.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, so a little bit of a dip in the strikeouts than he had prior to the injury, but that said, he's only giving up about 3.3 walks per 9 innings. He did give up a 5 spot in his last start against the Atlanta Braves, but overall has been very steady, and he does get to go up against the Cleveland Guardians team that is currently in the bottom 7 in all of baseball in terms of runs per game, and they just have a really tough time being able to give you a lot of run production when they've been at home this far this season. As for the Cleveland Guardians, they're a bottom 6 team in terms of runs per game at home, and it's a lot of it, in my opinion, has to do with the fact that they're a top-heavy team, as you've had Jose Ramirez be absolutely incredible for this team. He's right now giving you over a 365 on base, 23 home runs. Steven Kwan at the top is hitting about a 280. Carlos Santana, hit or miss, 320 on base, and then Kyle Manzardo has really been able to put it together. Now it's giving you about a 325 on base, 20 home runs. Daniel Schneemann has been okay, being able to about a 233, but then you just have a drop-off of guys, and a whole bunch of guys can get 215 or lower. Bo Naylor, Nolan Jones, David Fry, Will Wilson, Jonathan Rodriguez, John Kenzie Noel when he's been at the big league level, Austin Edges, backup catcher, like just so many guys. They're not not getting the job done. And for the Cleveland Guardians, this is a bullpen that has actually been able to maintain without Emmanuel Clase and the whole situation that's happening there. For the Cleveland Guardians, they're back up to number 6 in terms of bullpen ERA, but they still have had Hunter Gaddis give you a less than savory season. He is now posting up north of a 3.5 ERA. Matt Festa has not been good in this bullpen either. That said, you've been able to get some good production out of Cade Smith, Eric Zabrowski. These guys have been able to give you a sub-3 ERA. I like what I'm seeing out of Kobe Allard as a little bit of a long guy as well. And then on the other end, you've got a Miami Marlins team that has been a top 8 team with regards to bullpen ERA since the beginning of the month of June, as you've had a lot of guys come from, frankly, out of nowhere whatsoever. The likes of an Anthony Bender, Lake Bakar, Tyler Phillips, Cade Gibson, all being able to give a sub-3.5 ERA. Ronnie Enriquez has been pretty solid as well. And for the Miami Marlins, this team is averaging nearly 4.8 runs per game away from home. That is a top 6 mark in all baseball, despite the fact that in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, this is a team that's currently in the bottom 7 in all baseball. Kyle Stowers, 25 home runs, 364 on base, and then you've had Augustin Ramirez supply 17 bombs. He's hitting for about a 240. The only other guy that's been able to give you really above 8 home runs this season is Otto Lopez, who's giving you 11 bombs, hitting for about a 245, but Xavier Edwards at the top is hitting above a 300. Liam Hicks has been able to give you about a 350 on base. Grant Pauly has not been able to give you a ton, but Roberto Hernandez, in a small sample size, 130 at-bats, 7 home runs, hitting at 300, very encouraged there, and I do think that with the Miami Marlins, they should be able to do a solid job of getting to Gavin Williams, who's got a really nice 3.17 ERA, hasn't given up a ton of hard contact with 1.2 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but that 443 fielding independent does stand out because his command has been all over the place. 4.8 walks per 9 innings, and the strikeout stuff is solid, but it's not like it's overly amazing at about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, I will say. Very good run for him recently. He has given up a combined 7 earned runs over the course of his last 5 starts, so he's really been able to put it together there, going 6+ innings in each out of his last 4 starts, but I do think that the Marlins are going to be able to get to him here. Semi-total at 8.2, so I like the over. And with Miami, I'm going to be willing to take them on the money line. As a matter of fact, I was thinking we were going to get Tanner Bybee at first, which is why I had the Marlins as more of a pick-em. I set this more around about a -110, so I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the plus money, on the fish on the money line, and I'm going to be in on the over. 977, 978 on the card. The Chicago Cubs are on the road against the Toronto Blue Jays. Kevin Gausman goes for the Jays, and Cade Horton, he looks a hero who for the Cubs, and the Cubs do find themselves as slim underdogs, anywhere between even money to plus 110, -120 to -125. That number on Toronto at 8.5 is the total. The over is -120 and the under is even. And with Kevin Gausman and the Blue Jays, I did set them at a -141 on the money line. I'm going to be willing to lay it. For Horton, he hasn't been bad, but he doesn't necessarily have a ton of pizzazz to him. He's right now posting up a 3.18 ERA, but a 3.90 fielding dependent with only 6.7 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's pitching to a lot of contact. I will say he has given up 0 earned runs in each out of his last 4 starts, so he has been pretty supreme there. I do think that with the amount of contact that he gives up, though, that does need to be cautionary, especially against a Toronto Blue Jays team that may have been one of the best offensive teams at home all season long. For the Blue Jays, averaging 5.25 runs per game at home going into yesterday, that is number 1 in the American League, and I know that they've been dealing with a few injuries. George Springer being on the concussion IL has really been less than tremendous for them, but I mean, you just still have an offense that up and down. You've got a lot of guys that find a way to be able to get on base, and the power's really been able to come along for the ride as well. They're now about a league average team with regards to home runs on a per at-bat basis, as you've got Flagler Jr., Edison Barger, Bo Bichette, all give you between 16 to 19 home runs. Guerrero darn near 400 on base. Bichette has been able to darn near 300. Edison Barger sitting at 265. Don't call his name Alejandro Kirk is sitting about at 295. Dalton Varsho, 11 home runs at 116 at-bats thus far this season. They pick up Ty France to help move the line as well. And then for the Chicago Cubs, obviously a top 4 team with regards to runs per game. You've got a lot of guys that are absolutely supplying for the scene. Pete Crow Armstrong, Seiya Suzuki, 27 home runs apiece, both hitting between about a 250 to a 260. Michael Busch is up to about a 345 to a 350 on base. He's got 22 home runs. Kyle Tucker over at 365 on base, 18 home runs. So, I mean, these are 2 very fearsome offenses here. So, Kevin Gausman obviously is going to need to be on his game as well. And Kevin Gausman has had a little bit of an up and down season himself. 3.85 ERA. He is giving up 1.1 home runs at 2.6 walks per 9 innings, though, and that 367 fielding dependent shows that he's probably doing for a little bit of positivity. It's been a bit up and down for him, but you take a look at what Kevin Gausman has been able to do recently, and it does feel like he's starting to get into better form after things were just all sort of chaotic for him. In like May into June, in his last 8 starts, he has given up 3 runs or fewer in 7 of them, and in that time span, he's been posting up a 2.54 ERA. He's been getting a little bit over 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, so I've been liking what I've been seeing there. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, this is a unit that has a top 10 bullpen in terms of ERA. You don't necessarily have that like one guy that's like a super duper lockdown closer. They were hoping that either Jeff Hoffman or Chad Green was going to be that, and both of these guys have had less than savory years. But Brandon Little, Braden Fisher, along with Uriel Rodriguez, these are all guys who are giving you a sub 3.25 ERA. Nick Sandlin being on the injured list has hurt them, but they've had Tommy Nance in a small sample size of 10 appearances be able to give a sub 1 ERA, so you do like to see that. And for the Chicago Cubs, since the beginning of the month of June, they've been right around about a league average bullpen. They were really amazing in like May and June. They've seen a little bit of a drop off, and there were just quite a few guys that were doing for regression, for lack of a better term, but you still do have Brad Keller, along with Drew Pomeranz, Daniel Palencia. I'll give you at least a sub 2.65 ERA. Caleb Theobar, about a 2.28 ERA. He's been pretty solid in this bullpen as well. But that said, I do think that Cade Horton doing for a little bit of regression. I think that Kevin Gausman gives you a relatively good start here. Did so I told at an 8.6, so you're at the 8.5. I like the over and the Blue Jays on the money line. And wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Dodgers are on the road against the LA Angels as the Professor Kyle Hendricks goes for the Halos, and Shohei Ohtani is on the bum for the Dodgers. Dodgers are between minus 188 to minus $2 favorites. You're between plus 162 to plus 175 is that number on the Halos. 9 is the total. The over is between minus 120 to a minus 125. Under is between even and plus 105. And for the Angels, I set them at a plus 222. If you're looking to lay a run half with the Dodgers, I was willing to go up to a minus 134 there. The official FanDuel opener currently has this as a minus 137. So we do need to get this to more like a minus 130 or so, which I think when it's all said and done, we should be able to get there. So I'm going to be looking at the Dodgers on the run line. They, by the way, had the Dodgers money line more around a minus 210. So they had it higher than most of the marketplaces, which is why they've got a little bit of a higher run line. But except for Shohei Ohtani, when he's been on the mound, he's actually been quite good. 11.8 strikeouts per 9 innings, 2.37 ERA. Finally was able to go 4 innings in his last start as well, so that's very encouraging. And for Kyle Hendricks, he's actually been a little bit better at home rather than on the road. Overall for the season, 4.63 ERA, giving up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings and only getting about 6 punch-outs per 9, but that goes down to about a 3.88 ERA at home. At home, he's giving up a little bit less than 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. He is backed up by a bullpen, though, that is just in all sorts of ruin right now. As for the LA Angels, they have been all season long a bottom 6 team in terms of bullpen ERA, even with Kenley Jansen and Brock and Rolberg both being able to give you a sub 3.55 ERA. Carson Fulmer has come on as a little bit of a long guy as well, but you just have a lot of less than trustworthiness out there, likes of a Jose Fermin, when he's been out there, Sam Bachman, Ryan Zephyrion, a whole bunch of guys that are posting up an ERA that is well above a 5. Sean Anderson is out getting appearances. He's got an ERA of a 10. And for the LA Angels, this is very much an all or nothing team. They're in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of on-base percentage at home, but they're also in the top 6 in terms of home runs on a per at-bat basis, as you've got Taylor Ward giving you 27 home runs, hitting for just a 233, though. That on-base percentage closer to about a 313. Zach Neto, 19 home runs, hitting at 270. He's been one of the guys that have been able to move the line for the team. Joe Adell's up to 25 home runs, but 295 on base. Mike Trout even, 20 home runs, but he's only hitting a 240. You've had a lot of issues there. Jorge Soler is banged up, but even when he's been out there, he's only been able to provide about a 293 with regards to his on-base as well. Luis Renifo, it's been a little bit better recently, but he's hitting for less than a 300 on base. He's hitting actually for a batting average of 250, so that's a little bit better, but Logan Hoppe, 275 on base, 18 home runs. And for the Dodgers, this team is only averaging about 4.1 runs per game since the beginning of the month of July, but you do have to feel like with Max Muncy returning to the fold, that is going to be able to correct itself. He's been able to give this team above a 370 on base, and he's been one of the better home run hitters with 17 bombs and about 275 or so at bats. Shohei Ohtani obviously has been able to carry the mail for the team. 42 home runs, 390 on base. He has been tremendous. And then we got Teoscar Hernandez, Andy Paz, both with between 18 and 19 home runs apiece. Paz has been able to about a 280. Would like to see Hernandez give you better than a 289 on base, but Freddie Freeman a 375 on base. Will Smith is getting jiggy with it, with over a 400 on base, 14 home runs. So I do think that the Dodgers go out there, find a way to get the job done, even though you're going to need to require a lot out of the bullpen, because Shohei Ohtani, even if he does give you 5 innings, he's probably, that's going to be his absolute max moving forward. And you have had this team be a little bit better with their bullpen as they bring in Brock Stewart, who has been able to supply a sub 3 ERA this season. Jack Dreher, Alex Vesey have been very good in this bullpen with a sub 3 ERA. You've had Anthony Banda be a little bit up and down, and Kirby Yates, Tanner Scott being on the injured list is rough, but I mean, these guys weren't necessarily great to start with, and now you've got Blake Trinan back. So it is a circumstance where I did make the Dodgers a minus 136 on the run line, so minus 135 or better. We'll be looking there, and made my total an 8.9, so at the 9 I'm in on the under, and that'll wrap things up for the the Wednesday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcast. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways to be able to fire those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, LarsEM, the name does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Big thanks once again to our guy, Ben Wilson, who does such great work here at VSiN. You join me in the last segment, and I'm coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball regular season and postseason, so I'll be back to do once again tomorrow. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. Millions of people rely on our protein bars and hydration mixes to win their day. Turns out Thomas Keller, Michelin star chef of the French Laundry, is one of them. We've teamed up with Chef Keller to craft a bar and hydration mix that marry world-class flavor with exceptional nutrition. Our special edition salted caramel chip bar delivers all the decadence of a fine dining dessert plus protein minus sugar and carbs. And our zero sugar yuzu mango hydration mix packs an authentic citrusy punch and a mental boost from lion's mane and magnesium. The best part? 10% of sales go directly to Chef Keller's nonprofit that supports aspiring young chefs. Great taste, great nutrition, great mission. Total no-brainer.
Go to IQBar.com today and enter promo code Keller20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. That's IQBAR.com, promo code Keller20.